just last week, imposter syndrome came up to me pretty big, and I'm thinking, last time something like this happened, I let it run on for 3 or 4 days.
Doug, can you describe what the feeling you experienced during those days? What emotions come up? Where do you sense it the most in yourself?
What emotions am I experiencing when I'm so down on myself? Any hints or tips from you, I'd be happy, but it's
Well,
probably
sense into where does it affect you in the body?
yeah, that's the brilliant question.
Welcome to the podcast that guides men to demystify and develop their intuition. I'm your host, Doug Beitz. Let's dig into the science and expand your horizons.
If you notice in a part of this video, it seems a little choppy and something's missing. I've had to cut out a couple of minutes because one of the gentlemen that was sharing on here shared some awesome information. It was really good, very helpful for the group. But just with things specifically relating to that man, he and I agreed to edit out what was said. And it's nothing super duper, but it's just something that would be inappropriate to go public. It was very helpful to the rest of us to hear it. So just bear with us in that bit. If you think, gee, there's something missing here, yes, there is. Everything else is in there is wonderful. It was an amazing session, particularly for me, about imposter syndrome. I came up with the topic and I didn't realize until we started to get into it and discuss it, how much it has affected me in my life. And I'm sure there's plenty of you out there listening that have had experiences in your life where you felt like an imposter, or you just felt like I'm not good enough, etc. And this is a really good meaty episode, and there's a lot of wonderful information in here to help you move past that issue if you're having that issue in your life or you have it at some time in the future. Enjoy. Thank you. Eric, I'm with you there. I go really good for weeks at a time without imposter syndrome, and I'm flying high, and then whatever happens, it can be anything, and it just hits. It's like, whoa. And sometimes it usually lasts more than a few hours with me. It'll usually last a day or two, sometimes 3 or 4. The quicker I get out of it, the better, I can tell you. But anyone else like to share it all with imposter syndrome?
Love to, Doug.
Eric, either Eric or Doug, could you please clarify what you mean by imposter syndrome?
For me, I'm flying high for a week. I'm thinking, I know what I'm doing. What I've been called to in my life is I'm on the path and I'm flowing and everything's great. And then something will happen. A thought will come in my head, or I'll do something that's a little out of alignment with where I'm headed. And I'll think, who am I? I have got no idea. I am hopeless at this. I used to think I was on the right path. I knew what I was doing. And who am I to talk to these people? Who am I to offer any advice? I'm nobody. I'm hopeless. I might as well just go for a swim in the ocean and keep swimming towards America and never come back. It's over. The world would be better without me. But yesterday I was flying high. Today I feel like there's no way I could fit into that role. Eric, is that a definition you'd give?
Yeah, I think it just comes along of those days where you just have that self-doubt, and usually it's a trigger from something from the past or a pattern or something, which is a totally different scenario in most cases. Had nothing to do with whatever, but it happens so fast that we don't catch it in time and be like, hey, wait a minute, hold up. I know this feeling, and it's different scenario, different time, but it goes with me. Happened a lot where I just, no matter what milestones I crushed or whatever, it was always that what if or that not enoughness, or what, it should have been good enough. It's that over criticism where, I got to be confident in who I am. I got to trust what I'm doing. I got to trust the knowledge and everything that I've attained, and really believe in myself so you can walk with your head up, with your chest up. And I think once we do that, I think, and really know ourselves, especially as men, I think we can definitely, that imposter syndrome would kind of go away. Because the thing is that once we continue to keep from being derailed, like you talked about, Doug, some days will go for a few days and it decreases. But as we go through those healing moments and understanding, we start, putting the cap on those blockages, on those leakages, or you want to call them, And then once we start going, okay, I got to handle this. So when that thing comes up, like, oh, not this time. I got this. I'm good to move forward. So I think it's a lot of self-doubt, a lot of enoughness.
Yeah. Does that make sense, Mark?
Yeah, you're just saying self-doubt and insecurities in a different way. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
It's feelings of inadequacy, you know, around your talent, your abilities, your achievements. And I put up a post yesterday on YouTube, my weekly Wednesday dose of inspiration, and I posted that to Facebook, and it came on top of actually Doug and I just messaging back and forward yesterday, and as I did the video, and he said, "Oh, tomorrow's topic's going to be imposter syndrome," and I've gone, "Wow," you know, like my godfather. And you know, I've been asked to write a book, and so the publisher sent me the contract from the States, and that happened via Trinis Goggins, David Goggins' brother. After a couple of podcasts with him, and thought, you know, that I've got an amazing story to tell. And so I've got 15 chapters. Okay, I've written down all the chapters, and just struggling to start on the first one. Not writer's block or anything like that, because you know, I'm not a writer, so how could I have writer's block? But it comes from a point of, how's my story any more important than anyone else's story? But I guess when people around you have said to me, "Wow, like that's one hell of a story, that needs to be told," I think we dismiss things too easily within ourselves, because it's just like looking yourself in the mirror each day over 50 years. You don't see any change, you know, unless you look back to a photo from 50 years ago compared to today. You see the change then. So you don't really see yourself evolving as other people do. And this is why I think it is so important to surround yourself with people that are on the same page as yourself, genuine people, positive influence rather than negative external influences. As Eric was saying, it comes from outside us, and it comes from comparison. And comparison's the root of all evil. You know, it doesn't matter whether you've given up smoking for a week or a month, or sugary foods or alcohol. That is an achievement for you. Just because someone else has done it for a year, that doesn't make you, you know, any less a person to celebrate your achievements. And I've always noticed that, okay, for you, those you don't know me, I'm a 3-time world record holder. I've got mates, okay, Olympians, you know, world champions, you know, multiple world title holders. Those people encourage people on their own level, and that haven't even, people that haven't achieved what they have. You will never get anyone, as the old saying goes, doing more than you, checking you on what you've done. It's people below that. And so whatever you've done, you know, whatever your talent is, whatever your ability is, whatever your achievement is, right? And there's only growth through challenge. And when we look back to over a certain period of time, you can say, fuck yeah, I did that. Shit. Give yourself a fucking pat on the back, because we run ourselves down too much. We run ourselves down, you know?
Yep, I hear you.
Get stuck into me. Come on, get stuck into me.
Yeah. And Gary and Rob, I would imagine that you would get some of your clients who are coming along looking for a magic mushroom psychedelic experience. They're looking for something. I'd imagine some of your clients would potentially have come along because they need to sort their heads out. They might have been going through imposter syndrome in the, you know, run in the previous month or year. Would that sound right or not?
Oh, definitely. And I think a lot of it, because like as everyone has been talking about it, one of the things that I often Like I try and peel it back and like, what's the root of it? And I think the root of it is fear. That there's fear, and then it's expressed as self-doubt or worry. But then if we actually drill down deeper, there's some aspect of fear in all of it, like whether it's an insecurity or comparison of someone else is doing better than me. It's fear that I haven't shown up yet, that there's a calling I haven't answered yet. And I can hear the ring, but I don't know how to answer that actual ring. And I think in our line of work, a lot of what we teach and show people is like, no one's ever shown up. No one's ever showed up to actually let me let go of all of the baggage that I've had. Like we deal with people, not always, but some have been like severely abused mentally, physically, sexually, like straight out of the womb. And then their whole entire nervous system doesn't even know how to equate to anything other than fear. And like we recently worked with someone, he left here Monday, and he has been depressed for 60 plus years of his life, not thinking that the empire that he built was worth anything, even though most people would look at him and be like, wow, you have an amazing life. So I would probably say that he did have some aspect of imposter syndrome of like, yes, I built this empire, but for what? There's like, yeah, I have all the things that most people want, but it's helping people to recognize that there are ways that you can release the depression, you can release the insecurities, you can find your own center. And when you find your own center, it's unfucking wavering. No one's going to be able to ever knock you off of it. And are there going to be times when things come up? Sure. Where you like sort of feel like you come out of alignment a little bit. Yeah. But when you know that center within yourself and you've answered that call, imposter syndrome just sort of dissolves away.
Well articulated.
I'm going to shut the door.
Sure.
You know, one of the things that I say over and over again is, dear God, please reveal the truth of my being to me, no matter how beautiful it may be.
I like that.
Yeah.
And to go back to Mark, because Mark's been a while since Mark's been on the call here, and I had a podcast with him, so I've got an idea of where he's coming from on that. I'm just trying to think, was it when you were a teenager, Mark, you had the near-death experience?
Yeah, I crossed over when I was 16. Yeah.
And do you ever, like, because some of the experiences he's had that he's explained to me, like, it's just like mind-boggling. I would think I would feel like a demigod to have gone through and experienced some of the things that he's got. But I'm just curious, with all that, do you ever feel like you're not good enough, or that, you know, not all the time, but there's the odd days where, you know,
When you are married and go through a divorce, it's very humbling.
true, yeah,
And you know, I am still very human. Yeah, I mean, I make mistakes, and there's times when I doubt myself. But just the other morning, maybe it was yesterday morning, you know, as I was waking up from that dream state, I was told, you know, to really have that intent. You know, when you wake up, your intention is, you know, you are that leader. Think of yourself as that leader. What would you say? What would you act? How would you hold yourself if you were in fact already that leader? You know, it was already, it was already given to you. And to really have that mindset of, you know, of being that. And then talking about self-trust, I had a client last month, and I'm, you know, on the Zoom call with her, and I'm being shown as clear as day these ballerina slippers. I mean, it's just really in my mind, ballerina slippers. I ask her, I'm being shown ballerina slippers. What does that mean to you? I don't know. And she's like, she kept like, she's grasping for stuff. And I go, no, I know what I know. I'm being shown this. They're talking about ballerina slippers and someone in your life that relates to ballerina. She's like, oh my God, my godmother was a professional and very famous ballerina. So even if other people doubt what you were saying, do not doubt yourself. And as it turned out, her godmother had just passed away, and she didn't know about it until a couple of days later after our session. So that's why I was trying to tell that whoever this person was very close to them, and so it's all about don't let other people talk you out of yourself. And I think that's one of the passages in the Bible is move forward and enjoy, rejoice, and don't tell anyone. Don't let other people's seeds of doubt, don't let other people plant doubts of seeds in your own dreams, your own visions, your own messages, because they're just projecting their doubts onto you. Don't don't let them become yours. Yeah. But I'm glad I stuck with it, because it was so clear in my mind, these ballerina slippers. And I told her, I said, there could have been 1,000 million things that I was shown in my mind, but it was very specific that they were ballerina slippers, and it turned out to be true. Yeah. But I didn't allow her doubt to become my doubt. I stuck with it. And that's very important, to stick with who you are and to trust what you know.
Yeah. So in that intuition, that message from an unseen realm comes up. Yeah. Stick with
absolutely.
it. Yeah.
Stick with it.
Excellent. Yeah. And I mean, I know just last week, imposter syndrome came up to me pretty big, and I'm thinking, last time something like this happened, I let it run on for 3 or 4 days, and it just got worse each day. And I think after about a full day, I thought, I've had enough of this one. And I just went into one of my normal things I do. I can't even remember what I did, I've got a sound bed. I might have jumped on the sound bed or did some Wim Hof breathing or meditated for 20 minutes or something, and just went into that. And then within 10 minutes of that, I was starting to snap out of it and starting to just get back to, the normal thought process. And it's just that's just rubbish what I've been dwelling on in letting my thought process. And the longer you let it fester, or the longer you let it get there, it does start to fester like an open wound, and it's just the quicker you nip it in the bud, get back into some of your, well, for me, I've got half a dozen morning rituals. And of course if I did all of them, it would take till the afternoon. So I try and pick 1 or 2 and fit it into the morning schedule. And then the day flows, and the, feeling like I'm not good enough or whatever tends to stay at bay, Yeah. Yeah.
Doug, can you describe what the feeling you experienced during those days?
When I'm feeling the imposter syndrome,
what emotions come up for you?
Oh, shit, mate. I don't want to get out of bed. I'm just, like I say, I'd have feelings, and I'm not a suicidal kind of person, but I'd have fleeting moments of, I should just go swimming in the ocean, just put my mask and snorkel and fins on and just head down, because I love that. I love doing that, and I should just go down, and I should just keep going and just head out of here doing something I enjoy. And then I think, yeah, you fucking idiot, thinking that, as if you would do that. So it's never going to happen. But I guess, Gary, it's a really good question. What emotions am I going through at that point? Because, intuition and emotions and everything like that. I mean, I'm definitely, the emotions that are occurring are resisting my intuition from, sending me a message to snap me out of this pretty quick. And I know, I've never seen them like Mark does, but I know I've got guides around me. I know I've never met my two grandmothers because one of them died 30 years before I was born, the other 20 years, but I have a knowing that they are two of my guides. And I know my grandmothers and others are there, like trying to flip, give me a clip over the ear and say, hey, listen up here, mate. This is enough of this rubbish. The vibe you're putting out right now is not cool. Listen up. But whatever emotion I'm allowing there, and I'm trying to work out what it is, it's setting up a frequency that's, I'm in between radio stations and I've got static, and I'm not allowing the grandma's voice to come in and, steer me along the way. It's just like, last week we had our grandchildren here for a few days. It was school holidays. And I've got a 6-year-old grandson and he's awesome. His middle name is Doug. He's a good kid, I can tell you. And
Got to be a good bloke.
It's got to be. And he he's running around, but his grandmother and I are trying to get him to listen to us sometimes because we want him to act differently. And sometimes he's just not listening because he's in his little world and there's nothing wrong with what he's doing, but we want to impart some extra information. And I know my grandmothers and other guides are there. Same with me. I'm going through an emotion that's stopping me from hearing them. And Gary, I can't answer your question and I wish I could. And you've given me food for thought now. I am going to dwell on this a bit after this call and try and work out what emotions am I experiencing when I'm so down on myself. Any hints or tips from you, I'd be happy, but it's probably...
sense into where does it affect you in the body? Where do you sense it the most in yourself?
Yeah, that's the brilliant question.
And then I think there's the next step is once you land on it, you start to have an emotional intelligence of like, oh, there it is again. I'm feeling dullness, or I'm feeling rigid, or I'm feeling like I'm feeling controlling, or that's when I think the true empowerment of humanity is actually going to take hold, because we learn how to deal with we learn how to alchemize those energies of like, oh, there I go again, worrying again, or I'm in a crisis, or those feelings are presented to us so that we can alchemize them. And so we're turning the lead into gold. And that's like, chances are the imposter syndrome is going to come back again, and it's going to have the same frequency. It's going to have the same emotion behind it, the same feeling. And as a consequence of that, it's like, you haven't quite learned your lesson yet, have you? So that's where, when we actually hone in on what it is, and we learn to differentiate between those different shadow realms, because there's many different realms of those fear-based energies.
Yeah, I hear you. So when we hang up this call, I'll just get myself into full imposter syndrome again. I'll curl up into the fetal position in bed, and I'll recognize which part of my body it's occurring in. No, I won't do that. No, that's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome.
One more thing before we'll sign off on this is I got to go to the ocean to just put my fins on and snorkel and just keep swimming. You still can go to the ocean and you can change your mind that you're just going to go for a swim and nowhere else.
Yeah. And the thing is, when you go in the ocean, it cleanses you from all that shit.
Oh, totally. And that's the sign. The sign was there that you needed to take your ass to the ocean. You didn't need to go drown in the ocean. You just need to take your ass to the ocean.
Yeah, I'm not going to try and drink the ocean. Yeah.
No. Keep it simple.
Yeah. Andrew is a fellow ocean lover, and he's got his hand up. What do we got?
And just last weekend, I did that very trip where I drove down to one of our rivers, which go out to the ocean from the Gold Coast part of it. I'm talking about the Tweed River, Doug. Mm-hmm. And I dragged my daughter down with me because Julianne was working, but I needed to go to the ocean. I needed to go to the ocean, and she's the type of kid that because of and my 24-year-old daughter, but she understands that, and so when I said to her, "Do you want to come down and have a dive?" And her response was, "Oh, Dad, do you need to go to the ocean?" And gone, absolutely, I need to go to the ocean. So we all knew what we were doing, and as it does, it worked a treat. And that's one of the things I do when I'm in that zone. But I just want to jump in on a couple of things. That whole imposter syndrome is a term that got generated probably 5 or 10 years ago. It's not common use around the world or anything, but it's essentially that communication of doubt, fear, self, hesitation, all those things. And it's a nice term because it actually kind of wraps it up. In my line of work and being a person who wears a uniform most days because I'm in emergency services, one of the cultural unique elements is that our teams and community more generally think that when that person puts that uniform on, all of a sudden they know all the answers and can fix any problem. And so you got that internally, and I feel it still every time where you're with part of your team or an element of the team or a big part of the team, and you can just feel that they're standing there looking up at you. They're all in uniform, and they're virtually. I always have this sense that they want me or other senior leaders to tell them what the solution is. And this is what we're going to do. So there's an element of lead from the top. And in emergency services, one of the things that we do teach is command presence during a big moment, where even though you've got all this doubt in your mind, as a senior leader, you cannot stand up there, particularly with media, and tell them how full of self-doubt you are about what could be done about this. So you got to kind of temper it. And I do find myself, and I will say, I'm the type of leader now that if I get asked the question, "Hey Andrew, what do you think we should do?" then I will now more likely, putting the media part aside, when you're doing public work, I'm more likely to actually express, I don't have the solution here, but I'm sure that within this room there exists the knowledge that we can collectively come up with an option. And that's a bit of a shift for our industry, who have been brought up with, I wear this rank and therefore I've got this much power, and I'm just I'm just one of the workers, and I just want to do the work. And where some of these people have got the answer or got part of the answer. So that's real for me. I have another term which I use, Doug, which is when I have voices, trying to either pull me back, pull me down, push self-doubt into my mind at the worst possible time. I use the term wizard, and I actually name them where I go. That thing I'm hearing is a wizard from my life gone past, and it might be a parent, it might be some influential person that maybe didn't necessarily help you, but they taught you some bad habits or how to go about things. So I'm acutely aware that when I have that sort of wizard in my head, I can identify it and I can ask it to leave. It's really weird. I mean, we all have these talks in our heads and everything, but for me, that's one of the things I need to do deliberately to say, "Hey, can you step outside? You step outside, please," so I can actually continue trying to find a pathway through what I'm dealing with.
Taking yourself back and checking yourself with your core values and staying centered in that, I think has a range of benefits for keeping that imposter syndrome type of mindset from creeping in. And, as Andrew said, thinking back to what he, accepts and what he doesn't accept, that's all about core values. And I think, excuse me, I think that keeps us in a good position, mentally. And I can definitely identify with that. Yeah, 100%.
And I'll just add, the final thing I'll say is that because living your values is posed as a very meaningful, positive thing for anyone to do. What's not shared, what's not expressed so often in that dynamic is you've got to accept that you're going to end up in conflict with more people. Because an early version of me was probably a bit more of a pleaser, you know, and people are, oh, I don't want to rock the boat, you know, I might see if it goes away, you know, all those things what you do to reduce the accountability for us individually. That left me years ago. So I'm already thinking about how do I manage that conflict when it occurs, and then I've got to remind myself, Andrew, you're not in control of this. You know, you're on the journey, and you're going to have a part to play. But don't go thinking that you can control shit. You can only control my own actions, and that's the thing I think that limits the personal the cost.
Be an example. Be an example, Andrew. And you're doing that, and Doug's doing. You're all doing that. You're all being examples of your beliefs.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah. It's tough, though.
Mate, when you get to Everest, there's no cheerleaders, brother. But it's a long fucking way down, let me tell you.
Yeah. And Gary and Rob, you guys could probably, you know, like if we got all these people just before they went in for their interview with you, put them all through a magic mushroom journey and sort of see what came out. Like, you know, there might be some different things said, or
Definitely.
Yeah. And I think there's I have a coach that I work with every week, and he's actually Aussie, and brilliant soul. And one of the things that, because of the line of work that we are in, the psychedelic space, there's a renaissance happening. And as a function of that, people who should not be handing people that potent, powerful medicine and they don't know what they're actually doing. And we're hearing again and again and again, like, just repercussions from people coming to us and like, I think I need to do this the proper way. I need to do it professionally. I use it as grit for my pearl. So it's like, okay, duly noted. I'm taking that story and using it as grit for my pearl, and then asking, what can I create from it? And there's a standard of care, a standard of integrity and intent that we put forward that we believe no one else on the planet has that level that we're putting forth. So I think, like, part of what Andrew is stepping into is that there's a level of integrity that he's willing to stand in. And we need more people like that, because there's too many unconscious people who are in positions of power who aren't willing to stand in integrity.
Which leads beautifully to that expression, it's dangerous to be right when people in power are wrong.
I love it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Lucky you're at the age you're at, Andrew, and Andrew's younger than me. With your career, I guess.
Yeah, it's awful that you got to think, where am I in my contract? and what's the threshold and all those sorts of things. But I actually understand why it's difficult for. We appointed a couple of extra senior people to our executive last week, and one of them was sitting next to me, and he's probably, I don't know, in his 40s, so he's going to have at least 2 or 3 contracts to live out. And everyone congratulated him, and the executive meeting finished. And he went to get up, and I leaned across to him, and I said, "Can I say something to you?" And he's going, yeah, sure, Andrew. And I said, whatever you do, don't sell your soul. And initially, I think he thought I was joking, but I held my gaze at him a bit, you know, and kind of tilted my head a little bit like a puppy. And then he realised I was being serious with him, you know, and the eyes. The eyes went a bit bright, yeah, whatever. And I think for him, it was a moment where he just realized what he'd stepped into. And before that, it was probably all, you know, taken up by the glory of the, you know, new rank markings and all the bullshit that goes with uniformed organizations. That, oh my God, this is serious. I'm going, absolutely. Yeah, anyway. And I've done that with a couple of them. So because I see it, I see that people will they'll sell out real quick to either get further personal ambitions met, or to get back at someone who maybe screwed them over a while back when they were a lower rank. It's quite an interesting dynamic. The same stuff happens in military, happens in policing. So we're not talking about anything new here.
Different little part of the world. It's and I guess where you are, Andrew, it gets political. So
and just for the group, we're 4 weeks out from the state election here.
yes.
So every day is full of different stakeholders trying to get different political outcomes, and it's quite crazy to use that term. So and I keep saying my team, my part of the world, don't get sucked into the vortex. Stay away from the wormhole.
Yeah.
Be the vortex.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So anyone else got any other imposter syndrome scenarios or anything different? Like as this conversation brought up a different topic that you'd like to bring up or discuss?
I was just gonna say that down in your part of the world, there's a lady named Katie. She does a light language with Katie, or light encodings with Katie. And she's got all these YouTube videos, and I've listened to them a lot lately, and I found them extremely empowering. But it's YouTube. It's either light language with Katie or light encodings with Katie. And I found them very beneficial and very helpful.
Okay, I'll look her up.
So will I. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to add, and I'm just once again emphasising, in support of what Andrew said. I think that there's a great ability in keeping imposter syndrome at bay by just staying true, to core values. And sure, it's a little bit like climbing Everest. When you get there, the host of values like discipline and sacrifice and all those things that get you up to the top, okay, they're not in the majority. That those values don't belong to everyone. And so that's why when you get there and you look around, you go, shit, not many people here. Should I be down the bottom with everyone else? Or, do I deserve to be here at the top? And I think once you check your values, you say to yourself, hey, I'm right where I need to be. And that's really important. And we need to remind ourselves of that every day. It's so important for our mental health.
And I guess another way that I help myself get through things. Eric, I see you popped your hand up, mate. Way you go.
Yeah, I think one of the things I totally forgot about is that, I'm a military veteran, so when I transitioned out of the military, man, talk about imposter syndrome, I didn't have a team no more. I didn't have a chain of command no more. So I went out in the world and I was just like, well, am I going to get a go at this range or not a go at this range? So I had to do my own self-assessment. And at the same time, I was unaware of the good and the bad and ugly from leaving the military and going into civilian. So I brought everything, right? So not only you bring the things from big T to little trauma, or however you want to call it, from past, but I also had the military stuff of everything I experienced, and I transitioned to the corporate world. Well, there was a lot of imposter syndrome, and I know what it was at the time. I was like, what the heck's wrong with me? What's happening? Am I being a punk, man? What's going on? Why can I do this? Because I had to hold my own self accountability because I didn't have no more team, and I didn't know. I thought something was wrong with me at the time. So I fought a lot through it, and a lot of it was learning through intuition, because I started, going to see help and other things like that, but it just kept me in a loop and is always triggered. And I found out that that's not the way to always heal, is always being triggered all the time. So as I continue to really dive in deep and really understand deeper with me, I was able to, one, I think Andrew hit a big of it. He talked about being attached. Sometimes we want the outcome to be the best we can, and we can't be attached to it, because whatever that finish line that we think it was is going to change, because once that's over, assessment gets done, and we took the good, the bad, and do that assessment, and then another finish line gets created. You know what I mean? So it's never ending. It's just that took me a while, because I had a lot. My confidence was low. I didn't trust in myself. I was just spraying and praying, hoping things were just going to play out. And I was just avoiding things, and to the point to where I was completely unhealthy. It was just terrible. And then I started having like a little bit of coping mechanisms as well. And then I realized that sometimes when we rely on certain coping mechanisms, we actually numb our intuitive abilities. We can't always rely. We got to be like strong enough in our own birthday suit at the point if it comes down to it. And of course, all the modalities and all the healing modalities are great as well as tools. As I think of it as like a video game, it's our add-ons, it's our different skins that we want to go into the world. But I think that was a big one for me, man. And because we had missions where it didn't go good, right? But I allowed that to stick with me, but not the good outcomes. You see what I'm saying? It was always that having negative preparation, but not be emotionally attached to what the outcome's going to be and bring our personal struggles and our problems. And so it's learning how to compartmentalize both and not being attached, knowing that the marker's going to shift, and always have a self huddle. I think it was like a platoon. All right, come here, self huddle. I got anxiety. I got the little guy that has PTSD where he's all wigged out, like things are gonna go in, man, or things are gonna get destroyed. And we're like, no, it's cool, man. The world's not gonna end tomorrow, man. I got you, but when I need you, you're gonna get my back. He's like, well, I'm ready. So it's like filtering out these different things and having that self huddle and be like, okay, I know what you're talking about. You're cool. I don't want to hear from you because you're just going to worry me to where I'm not want to get up. You know what I'm saying? So I was really trying to filter it out. And once I started doing that, those noises that were loud, that were so consuming, starting to be a little low. Because as my confidence and my trust and my authentic self started coming out, I was like, I hear you, but you're not like wah, in my ear now. Now you're like, hey, I got a suggestion. I'm like, okay, thank you for your opinion. What's going on here? Okay, I got that, but that was a situation. Okay, I got this. type of way of going at it. So I just wanted to throw that in there for any other the veterans or even first responders, or even through COVID. I realized a lot of people went through their own transition in their occupation and their jobs, what they did for X amount of years. They had to go pick up a different trade and do other things. So just want to throw that out there, guys.
Yeah, I could see like going from that intenseness and the team situation with the military, like, and then moving over to civilian life. Now you're home and you're like, oh, where's all my buddies? Like, you've lost, I guess, could you say you'd lost your identity a little?
I did, because the thing is that I mean, I went to school and then I was like, okay, I know I ain't gonna make college, so I barely made it out of high school, so I'm not gonna go that route. So I joined the military. My dad, he was in the Marines, and he's like, you know what, son, I would do the Army. Don't do the Marines. They probably got a lot more. So I went that way, and once I did that, you're right. I didn't know who I was no more because I was LG. That was who I was in the military because my last name's Longoria, so they started calling me LG. So my name was completely different, and now I'm Eric. I'm like, well, who the heck is Eric? I don't know who Eric is. I mean, I've been called by my last name and by LG for so long. Who is this Eric? Now I gotta say my name's Eric Longoria. I'm like, who the heck's that guy? I don't even know who that guy is. So but I started understanding the duality of the feminine and masculine, and really trying to embody the alignment, and really trying to understand and unlock the universe between our ears. That's when everything started making sense. And the more things started making sense, the more I realized I had to unlearn and relearn everything, and kind of allow my neurons to rewire and create different things in my life, which create different patterns, different habits, which, everything just kind of compounds off of each other.
That positive mindset that you speak about in, what would be, I can't imagine, but other than, dire situations, Eric, mate, that's applicable to any area of life, which will make you a leader at anything you do. So, imposter syndrome is, a country mile behind you.
All right, we're coming up on the hour. Any final words from anyone? Want to just chime in before we go?
Just thank you. It was great to reconnect again. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. And Mark, I do hope that your life gets back to normal very quickly. But
it's going to be a hot minute here. So.
Yeah. So, but I'm happy that you were able to join us again, because work didn't happen this week. That's a benefit for the rest of us to get your company.
And just remember, Mark, swimming is just as good as walking.
Yeah, or walking against the very strong breeze. Yeah. Yes. All right. Okay, guys.
Thank you for holding this.
Thank you for and Gary, I'll definitely be next time I'll start to get these voices in my head, and I'll definitely start to tune into the emotion and what part of my body am I feeling this thing. And then I think it will help me knock it on the head quicker.
Completely.
It'll be like, oh, yeah, I love that advice. Thank you. And it's not something I haven't heard before. I haven't heard it much, but it's just like, I needed to hear it. I think one of my grandmothers got in your head and had you speak it to me. I don't know whether you like the thought of that or not, but something like that happened, I think.
There's a lot that goes through my head.
Yeah, I needed to hear that, and I appreciate it.
Thank you for receiving it. Definitely.
I definitely received it. It resonated, I can tell you. It was like,
Brilliant.
yes. Excellent.
This is fun. Thank you.
All right. Yeah.
Thank you, guys. It was awesome joining you guys today.
All
right.
Guys.
Nice
Thank
meeting
you.
everyone. Take care.
Have a great week, guys.
Have a great day or night, whatever's happened for you.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
Hey, guys.
Bye.
Well, we're at the end of another thought-provoking episode. Remember to subscribe so you'll be alerted to new episodes. I want to say thank you to the men who are joining me on this journey of intuitive development. I truly hope our time together has expanded your reality and reinforced trust in your ever-reliable gut feeling. Embrace your intuition. It will not lead you astray. Until next time, stay tuned, stay curious, and trust your gut.